This week, a religious studies academic with expertise in critical race theory sued the university that had ended her services as an academic advisor in February following tweets about conservative political commentator Calvin Robinson. The terms used were racial slurs, which I obviously won't be repeating. Aisha Khanum claims the university is discriminating against her based on her beliefs in critical race theory, which are protected under the Equality Act. So I'm joined by Calvin Robinson now. Calvin, you were the target of these tweets, and they were racial slurs, weren't they? Do you find it strange that she's trying to defend herself by saying the use of racial slurs is simply part of an academic theory?
Andrew, I find it fascinating because she's saying that her protected characteristics are being impeded upon, which suggests that she believes that her critical race theory is a belief structure. It is a religion, which is something I've been saying all along. It's pretty much a cult at this point, that either you sign up to it or you don't. She did, her Twitter account abused me racially, and she's saying that that's okay because, according to critical race theory, only white people can be racist and brown people cannot be racist. She's Asian. I am half black and half white. To me, that's racist, but because anyone can be racist and anyone can receive
I suppose
racism.
We should clarify what was the context of this tweet. Now, is there, obviously we don't want to repeat the term.
I won't repeat it, but I'll give you the backstory.
What was the nature of the term? What was she saying, and why was she saying it to you?
Right. So about 6 months ago, I was on the BBC's The Big Question. I was debating a prominent professor in Black Studies. And I was essentially saying, look, you cannot go around calling people these derogatory racial slurs just because you don't agree with them. And he was saying, well, I can and I do, because these people are race traitors and coconuts and words that I won't use on air. And I'm like, that's inappropriate. So this Aisha Khanum woman tweeted me from her personal account 3 times before locking it down, calling me a coconut and other words that I can't repeat. So that was the context. It was, accusing me of being something for having views that don't fall in line with what people on the left think that brown people should be thinking.
That's really the key, isn't it? It's based on this assumption that all people of colour ought to have the same opinion, and that opinion ought to be in line with the intersectional left.
Yeah, and if it's not, you're somehow a traitor to your race. But my problem here is that, there is only surely one race, the human race. And if we're promoting diversity and inclusion, surely people of all ethnicities should be able to hold different opinions and different politics, and we shouldn't judge them based on the colour of their skin. But critical race theory says the opposite of that. And that's why it's so baffling to me that someone would defend this. But what's interesting is all the people that come out, all the people from the hard left who are like, that's racist, cars are racist, fruit's racist, everything is racist every day. They didn't come out and call this racist. So apparently, using racial slurs is not racist, but everything else is.
That's very interesting, because you're right. I've seen all sorts of articles and accusations that things like classical music are racist, Shakespeare is racist. We're going to talk about that a bit later on, and yet they won't come out when someone actually uses a racial slur against you. And that is absolutely astonishing. So this woman was actually fired, though, as a result, and is now suing her university on the grounds of free speech. Do you take the point? Some people will say, well, this is a free speech issue. She should be able to say what she wants and she shouldn't be fired for it. And they might even accuse you of indulging in cancel culture if you disagree. What would you say to that?
I mean, I wrote a piece for Spiked on this. I don't think that she should be cancelled for her opinion. I think it's a disgusting opinion, but I think we should ridicule her and people should stand up to her and say, that's wrong, that's racist. But that hasn't happened. That's the problem. I wish people who call themselves anti-racist would stand up and tell her that this is wrong. But I don't think she should lose her job because of it. What I think is people should challenge her from her opinion, let her know that. Because the problem is, her job is teaching race literacy in schools and universities. And that's the connection she has with the LBU, is that she teaches young people about racial literacy, whatever that means. So that's what's concerning about all of this.
And, of course, this idea of critical race theory, racial literacy, this kind of thing, it is going into schools as well as universities. I'm routinely contacted by teachers. I know that you've written a lot about the infiltration of critical race theory in schools. And as this academic is pointing out herself, it is a religion. It is an ideology. So why is it being taught as uncontested fact in schools? What's going on?
Precisely that. And on the point of it being an ideology, if this court case goes ahead, so this person, the perpetrator, is suing the university for cutting ties, because it's impeding on her protected characteristics. If she wins this, that essentially says that you can hold racial views, you can hold racist views, because that's a protected characteristic under the law, which means white supremacists, people on the far right, anyone who's, would have been a member of the KKK back in the day, can hold those views and espouse them publicly and claim it as a protected characteristic. So this so-called anti-racist is actually promoting racism. And that's the problem with critical race theory, because essentially it says that, white people are inherently racist. It's the new original sin. And brown people cannot be racist because it's no longer about prejudice or discrimination against someone based on their skin color. Racism is now a power play between whites and non-whites. And of course that's incorrect. Of course that's wrong. They're redefining words. They haven't looked in the dictionary. They're changing the language in order to win the fight. And that is inappropriate. That's not how we progress in society.
Absolutely fascinating. Well, thank you, Calvin, for joining us to discuss this story.